Hey.
Hi, Dan. Glad you could make it today.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Thank you very much. Good to see you too, Miss Moore.
Wow, your clothes look great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've been getting ready to go back to work, so I've been trying to dress a little nicer.
Well, did you find a place to live? Last time we got together, we were talking about your need to just have a place to shower.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I've been trying to find places. I asked a few friends and a few family, and I did actually find a place with my cousin. He lives over in a different part of town. Somewhere I still know the area. I know people around there. And he's going to let me stay at his place for the time being. They've got, a guest room.
Oh.
It's close and, it's got a bed and a closet. It's everything I need. It's perfectly fine.
How do you feel about staying with them?
Well, it's not something I want to do for very long, but it's not something I want to do for the long term. But we did talk about it last week, and it sounds like it's fine for the time being.
Well, I'm glad that you accomplished that first task that you set before yourself successfully, and on a sliding scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about what you were able to accomplish this week?
Well, I feel good that I was able to find a place to stay. On a sliding scale, I still might not rank that high. Maybe a 4 or a 5, because I still just want a job. That's the most important thing to me. I need to be busy. I need to be out there, using skills that I have in landscaping and making my own way as a man in this world. That's what I need to do.
So what do you believe being with your relative at this time, how is that going to help you get a job? Do you remember some of the reasons that you sure that was important?
I remember us talking about that. You were saying some things that things that are true about it'll be good because it's kind of a base for me where I can go and gather my thoughts and just have a set place to go. And it's so much better than a shelter. I don't ever want to go back to a shelter. That was such a horrible negative environment.
So what things would you think are better this week for you?
That's a good question. This week, I think it's better because I do have, even though it's not a long-term place, I do have a place to stay. So I think that's really better for me. Okay. And then, in terms of other things, this week I've been able to stay away from alcohol and drugs, so that's been good too. I've been thinking about places where I want to apply for work.
Okay. What are some of the places that you're thinking of?
Well, ideally my experience is in landscaping, so, I'm good at, mowing the grass and things like that, and there are places, there are a couple places nearby, and I have some friends who work for companies that do work like that.
Wow.
That I could do.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, we had talked about perhaps utilizing the shelter resources, and one of the things about taking the step of finding a place to live is now you're able to do a couple of things. One is to develop a residency. That means you go to the post office and you fill out an address card and you let the post office know that this is where you live.
Yeah.
Have you thought of doing that so that you put that on your job application?
Well, that's a good idea. I haven't brought that up with my cousin, and he owns the house.
Right.
So I think before I go and make it official in any way, I'd wanna check with him. But that is important, and it would be good for employers to see that I have my own place. Because if I put down the address of a shelter, I'm sure they all know the addresses of the shelters around town, and they're gonna see this guy lives in a shelter. I don't want him to work for me.
Right. So how would you go about approaching the discussion? Would you like to do a little role modeling, how would you approach this sensitive issue with your cousin?
About staying there?
Using his home address.
Oh, using his home address, right. Well, yeah, I think, I'd probably go up to him and I'd say, well, his name is Melvin. I'd say, hey, Melvin, is it, I appreciate you letting me stay here, but I don't want to stay here for very long. And is it okay with you if I, put down this address so I can apply for jobs and go to the post office and use it as residency? And if I can say, hey, Melvin, if you agree to that, then what I'll do is I'll help. His grandfather lives with him. His grandfather is real old, not in the best of health. they have, people coming in like nurses and doctors and home health aides to help him out. He's about 90, 95 years old. He lives in a room in the back on the first floor. He's a nice guy, and I'll say, Melvin, if you let me use your place, then I will go and, I'll help out your grandfather when you need me to.
Great way. So in a way, it will let you pay for your rent by time.
Yeah, by doing some work.
So I think that is a wonderful idea, that there's a little bit of a trade there. And, and so in a way, it's a type of job.
That's true. And so maybe that means I'm
you.
supporting myself a little bit by doing that.
Yeah, you would be supporting yourself, and I believe your actions, and by taking initiative to take that discussion with your cousin, would show him how you're feeling about yourself. Do you feel how do you think you're right now? Are you feeling really strongly, or are you still a little nervous? How would you describe your feelings right now when you think of having this discussion with your cousin?
Well, Melvin and I, we haven't always been on the best terms. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I don't like the way that he acts, and I know he gets frustrated at me for various reasons. Mm-hmm. So I get a little anxious thinking about it.
I was wondering, I kind of noticed some nervousness in your voice when you were talking about sitting down with him and discussing them. It might help to, we can sit down, make some notes today, and just some guidelines of things that you can offer your cousin, show your sincerity. Okay. And would it help with your nervousness if you had things written down, maybe kind of like a contract where you made an agreement with him?
Yeah, I think, I think that might be a good idea if we had something in writing, and I would sign it and he could sign it too, and maybe even, you could sign it as an impartial third party.
I would be very happy to sign that. I think that would be very, very good.
Yeah, because I would appreciate that. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I don't want Melvin to see me as being like a mooch, you know?
Right. I sense that from the first day I worked with you. You have a very strong sense of supporting yourself, and a moral character of just saying, I don't want to smooch off at anybody.
Right.
I want to be independent. I want a job. If I'm hearing you correctly, I want that apartment. I want that independence that just has... with everything that's gone on with you physically, and not being able to the intensive landscaping that you were doing. Mm-hmm. It's such a... imagine right now, if I'm correct, you must have felt so frustrated to not be able to physically do the landscaping at the level that you were doing, and having to say, now what do I do?
Exactly.
You can do some light lawn maintenance, but, have you thought about ways to take your talents and your strengths, your knowledge about not just caring for lawn, but for understand that you're really good at planting and what's the word I'm looking for? The ornamental. Help me out here. The way the landscaping looks, the planting of flowers and what seeds. I'm not real knowledgeable in this area.
I know what you mean. I don't think I know the terminology.
Yeah, but am I right that you were really gifted in being able to just make a beautiful landscape and?
Well, I think I'm gifted. I know that I've been fired from a lot of jobs, so maybe my bosses don't think I'm very gifted. But that was when I wasn't in as much control of myself as I am now, when I was drinking and using narcotics more. But there are, I appreciate you bringing that up. There are a lot of things I'm really good at. And maybe also that's something we could put in the with my cousin Melvin. I could say, Cousin Melvin, I'll help out with your grandfather, and, also I'll help out around the house and help out with some of the landscaping on his property, because he's got a big property.
Wow, that'd be great. And if you listen to great, maybe you'll end up with a recommendation from your cousin, or a neighbor will notice, and maybe you can get some other work there in the neighborhood.
No, that's a good idea.
That's a really good idea. I think you had a great idea. So, wow, how are you feeling right now?
Well, I'm glad you asked me. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm glad that we're making this progress towards helping me find a job, because that's the most important thing for me. And so when, thinking about how I can help out in this place where I'm going to be living, because it's pretty important to have a place to live if you're going to be able to go back and forth to work every day. I'm going to be so unhappy if I have to stay at a shelter. I wouldn't be able to
Right.
go to a job. My clothes would be dirty. I'd be stinking like heck. That would just be a terrible situation.
I sense that you're really committed. So I want to just take you back to something you mentioned earlier. You said
Okay.
in the past you had trouble maintaining a job long term
Yeah,
due to some drinking.
yeah.
Did I hear you correctly? Did you say there was a little bit of drug use in there, or was it just? Can you describe it a little bit more for me?
Well, I've used some drugs. I know I've made bad choices using drugs off and on. And, I would go to work and I would sometimes be high on drugs, and I wouldn't do as good of a job as my boss would want me to. And a lot of times that led to them, confronting me and saying, blah, 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 I don't know, whatever they would say. And then I would get fired because I would get angry about them saying that. And I'd say, why are you judging me? They didn't know what I was
What do you think their fears were as far as?
Well, that's a good question because, they run the business, and a lot of times they were the owner of the business too. So their fears were probably that they were getting somebody who, was a loose cannon or whatever. That's what one boss called me, that they were getting somebody who wasn't working as hard or as well as they needed for their company.
Were you able to make clear, quick judgment decisions while you were working on the job when you showed up a little?
I mean, that depends on what you think is a clear judgment. To me at the time it seemed good.
It seemed to you good. Now how does it seem to you?
Well, at the time I was making a lot of bad decisions based around, being high and, and staying high, and then other stupid choices that I was making. So it probably wasn't very good.
So do I understand you that you don't want to go back to that lifestyle?
Well, I've already moved on past that lifestyle. There's no way I'm going back.
If you don't mind me asking, it's a little sensitive, and I know you didn't come here directly for this, but if you don't mind me asking, how long has it been since you've really been high?
Well, I've been clean almost completely for about 2 or 3 years.
And that's a substantial amount of time.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, it's been like...
That's about time that your mother passed away then.
You're right. Yeah, that is around the same time. That was an experience that showed me, I feel like that really showed me the light and showed me that I needed to once my mother was out of my life, I needed to be a responsible adult. Take care of myself, because she wasn't around to take care of me.
So the death of your mother really helped you turn down a different street. We sometimes say we got a fork in the road and go one way or the other. And
oh yeah, because I could have gone the other way. Yeah, I could have done that. But that's true. That's a good analogy. I could have gone down the other way, and that would have been terrible.
That shows a lot of strength on your part, being able to make that decision and say, I'm going to stay clean, I'm not going to go high, and I want something different out of my life, and I want to be able to support myself. And that's pretty amazing that you're able to do that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
That's really amazing. Well, some of the things we talked about last week was, one was it doesn't seem to be directly relevant to your job finding, and we know you're going to be pursuing some resume writing and some interviewing skills for the shelter unless you change your mind. But one of the things that I was thinking about this last week after we met is that you have relatives that you're living with, and by working on your relationship with them and strengthening that relationship and improving it, you can develop, without quote working on it, interviewing skills within your environment at home. So when you're in a job situation, you have to interact with people on your job and in your job. So I was wondering, what is, if we did a sliding scale again from 1 to 10, what would be your confidence level in how well you interact with other people?
Well, I'm great with people. You can tell from talking to me, I'm very good with people. It's just, sometimes with jobs in the past and with other people I've been close with, like friends or family, sometimes, things, I've made bad decisions, or I thought they made bad decisions, and things didn't go the way I thought they would.
Can you give me an example, or can we kind of go back? So on a sliding scale of 1 to 10, so I'm hearing that you're very confident that you have great people skills, or great skills with, friendships with past coworkers. And the main issue here, if give me a minute for restating this, but the main issue I sensed was that in the past 2 years ago, which was a long time ago in a way, it was just when you had some alcohol and drug use, that affected your ability to work well to the satisfaction level of your bosses.
Yeah.
But for now,
I'm good.
So if you put your number with 1 being not so great in people skills and 10 being great, where do you place yourself on that scale?
I would say I'm around a 7 or an 8.
You're a 7 or 8?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's very realistic. I think that everything I've seen reflected here is great. And,
well, thank you.
So do you have any other concerns with living with your cousin?
With Melvin, I think we're okay. I need to actually get going pretty soon. He told me he wants me to be home to look after the grandfather.
Okay.
But I think things are fine with Melvin, and maybe something we can do is write up that contract, at our next session.
We'll write up the contract, and I'm looking here, and if you've got a few minutes, we'll write it up real quick.
Okay.
And I'll sign it, and I'll just type it up on my laptop. It'll be just a few minutes. So from what I understand, I'm just going to restate what you like in the contract.
Okay.
So you would like me to put that you are willing to help watch the grandfather and take care of his physical needs, whether it's taking food to him or making sure he eats and getting him up to go maybe to the bathroom.
Sure.
Okay, so we can listen. I'm not sure what your comfort level is.
Well, I'll make him food. I'll help him get around when he needs to go to the bathroom, or if he needs to go to the store, or I'll run errands for him, or if he needs to go to a doctor's appointment. I've had to do these things before, but I think it'll help to put it down on paper, so that way, Melvin will see that, and we'll all sign it, and he'll know that I'm really serious about it, and that it's part of my getting ready to get a job.
Okay, and then in addition to that, you're also willing to maintain his lawn. Would that be a good way of stating it?
Yeah, I'm willing to do that, sure, because that's something that can help me actually build those solid job skills that I've had in the past.
Okay. Do you want to put just an open-ended question that if he has another area of need, and that you're willing to discuss that, if there's something else he feels that you could do that might help him out?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Okay. Well, we'll do that, and we'll sign it, and it's been great meeting. Do you feel like you've accomplished a lot during this session?
I do, yeah. I feel like we've really made some solid steps in coming up with ideas how I can get back to work, and that is my concern. Okay. So I do.
During this next week, hopefully when you come back next week, you'll let me know how that goes.
Okay, sure.
And we'll go and we'll make sure we've identified a shelter close to his home. And if you're still interested when you come in this week, we'll discuss this. I'll have the shelter we can go visit, actually.
Okay.
So we can go visit shelter, and if you want to sign up for the interviewing and resume classes still.
Oh, that they offer at the shelter.
They offer them at the shelter. That's where they have those. So you had mentioned that during the day you were comfortable with going and getting some training there.
Okay.
So you can meet the instructors, and we can go there together so that you're kind of comfortable going in there, and I'll make sure that I'm comfortable, because I know you had a lot of concern about the safety and that you wanted it. But
yeah.
There's one that's a nonprofit one. It's not run by the government. It's by a church.
Okay.
And in fact, that's the one I mentioned that offers the clothes, the suits, interviewing clothes if you feel the need to have some new clothes. You were very interested in that last time, and if you don't want a suit, you can just have new jeans, button-down shirt, or a casual shirt like what you're wearing today. Okay. And because we recognize that when you obtain these skills, you might need a little help with the wardrobe, so that you have the best presentation possible.
Yeah.
So, are you still really excited about the clothes?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the clothes. I'd like a nice suit.
Okay.
That'd be great.
So that might be a little bit of a motivation to follow through that.
I will follow through. My motivation is staying clean and getting myself together and getting a job, and I appreciate your helping me with that.
Okay, that's great. So we'll do that, and then after just about, we'll practice interviewing skills for 2 more sessions after that, so that's 3 total. So
Okay.
about a month from now, we will have closure. And,
Okay.
and I believe you will be in the right direction. And the very last meeting, we'll make sure that I give you the list of landlords that will allow you to rent without an extra month's deposit.
Okay. Oh, that's exactly what I need.
So,
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, and I appreciate you keeping our appointment and coming.
Of course.
Really
No problem.
have a good day.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.